And so, what I'm pointing out to you is Robert Peel put in a very short series of notes what was rejected repeatedly by paedophiles whom you call politicians. 90% of politicians being paedophiles. For example, Edward Heath was renowned for being a mass murderer of children, and he consumed them, raped them, and did unspeakable things to them, which he got more and more off on, let's put it that way. You can use your imagination on that. But basically then he would appear in public and he would go, sorry I've come. I can't remember why I'm here. Basically, and you can go and look at video of Edward Heath, and as usual, he was presiding over a whole blackmail cabinet of paedophiles who were scared of him, and then going home to rape and murder an orgy of children. So that was Edward Heath. Now, when Margaret Thatcher, who was a megalomaniacal psychopath, a scumbag needing shot in the head, basically she's a serial killing subhuman lunatic, just obsessed with her imaginary self-image. She presided over an entirely blackmailed cabinet of paedophiles, well-known fact. And of course the tradition was perpetuated to Gordon Brown, who's a well-known paedophile, who's blackmailed by Tony Blair into submission, and basically along with his cabinet. And of course Gordon the Gopher, or Tintin, you know, David Cameron, who rather gave away the fact that he closely associates homosexuality with paedophilia, when one of the bravest men in that country, you know, what's his name now? Phil Schofield, am I right? Is that his name? Shoved his fucking hand up his arse and worked him like Gordon the Gopher. Basically, and he gave away an almighty tale, on that particular show about his cabinet being paedophiles, and predominantly homosexual, which 90% of paedophiles are homosexual. It's quite important to know that. And 2/3 of homosexuals are paedophiles on the male side, 1/3 on the female side. However, that's just the converse of everybody else. One of the most disturbing revelations I found was that 2/3 of so-called heterosexual females are paedophiles. That's 2 out of every 3 females you meet are lunatics. Well, we already knew that, but they're actually paedophiles. But they've no moral conscience and just doesn't really matter. You know, they're not necessarily hands-on paedophiles. 1/3 of all Western males are paedophiles. 1 out of every 3 males you meet, given the opportunity, just go ahead and do that. More than that are actually paedophilic. However, 1/3 are confirmed paedophiles. Yeah. So anyway, that's the planet I live on. Planet of the simian sex offender. Get your goddamn paws off of me, you goddamn filthy chimps! I'll come to that in a minute. So here's the thing, right? So Robert Peel says, and you've got to go and read it. It was fucking lovely, right? Absolutely lovely. I hope I've got time to go back to Gordon Brown, because he has sinned against you and sinned against you and sinned against you, and it's time to stretch that fat fuck's neck. So anything is this, right? Robert Peel said the first thing that a policeman should be, right, who are referred to as pigs because he used to run his pigs through the streets, and that's where the word came from. It was actually low-life people started referring to them as that, because they didn't like them, because they were wanting to arrest them. And so the first volume of that type of police were actually good guys, because he called specifically for moral men, and it's very touching if you go and read it, right? He called for moral men who would use the least type of resistance and keep in mind the historic origins and traditions of the original Cums stable. Yeah. with the person, you are the police force. They are just you in a uniform. And, wait for it, they've to be your friend. And he said they've to treat you with a sense of humour, to try and make you laugh and be your friend, so you wouldn't want to betray him. And he's to use the least type of coercion possible. Just any kind of like physical force must be a real last resort. And he must treat you with respect and kindness at all times. And remember what it's all about. Never ever degenerate into a power struggle. Unless, of course, he's dealing with an out-and-out bampot, you know. But the way he described it was just really, really lovely. And he said this in the houses of paedophiles. And they unsurprisingly rejected it. And then, I think it was actually on the second time, they went, the second time they said, thumbs up! Because I think he'd had the sway of the people behind him. And it's really simple, right? He just wanted it to be as good as it had ever been, really, before the fucking Normans, right? He didn't use those words though. But the thing is, that's right. If you go and read it, it's just really lovely. Every single word he says. The only fly in the ointment being corrupt judges, because in his second last sentence, he, imbues into judges like a sense of authority, independence and pursuit of individual revenge for someone who's been who's suffered an injustice that's immoral and unjustifiable. This person has no alibi for treating this person this way. This is what they must pursue, and what the country at large, the state, he called it, would want done unto this person. So that sounds wholesome and good. However, in America, just like in Hate Britain, as I call it, 90% of judges are paedophiles. So, in America, 10% are widely known to be paedophiles. Right? 10%. And 30% are well known. So, 10%, every cunt knows they're paedophiles. High court judges in America, right? 30%, well known amongst the secret imbeciles. But it's actually 90%. 90% of pieces of shit sending innocent men into a dungeon system exactly as it had been at its most degenerate, when the Normans had basically let this all set in, and the 100 strong, self-governing body of individuals who don't need these fucking pieces of crap, making up pish to put you in a dungeon system and work fuck out of you. For 20 quid a week, I think it is, they work fuck out of you. So it's just really slavery, modern day slavery. And that's what these imbeciles are into, right? If you look at Americans, right? Americans are working three jobs a week. Fuck me. Good Lord Almighty, right? 3 jobs a week! Are you mad? Right? 3 jobs a fucking day! What the fuck? Right? So that fat bastards in a sedan chair behind them can delude themselves that they're superior. They are severely mentally handicapped. They have no self-awareness. Like Saint Bram Stoker, one of the closest novelists ever to get to the Windsor family, portrayed them as being unable to see themselves in the mirror. This is neuroanatomical fact. They have no cognitive empathy or no affective empathy, or both, right? And they've got no morality, so they have no conscience, right? And they don't have object constancy. In other words, they don't have, they're in a, they live moment to moment and just like throw truth behind their head. It doesn't really matter. They're just trying to get what it is they want at all costs. I could go on, but the thing is this, right? So, starts Peel's force, the policemen that were the origins of what's degenerated into the kind of shite that needs to be turned into bacon today, right? The true definition of what the criminals used to call pigs actually have become criminals who are fucking filthy fucking pigs, right? And I've got damning evidence on them, you'll be glad to hear. So, in the last video I did, I told you about a female serial killer who targeted me, who was basically committing countless crimes against me, but during her campaign, she fell for me. Of course, I'm quite a good character, yeah. So the thing is, and she wanted to kill me because she couldn't have me. She was doing all these things in her head. Well, I was just trying to be Christ-like towards her and loving and caring and considerate. And, you know, I saw her inner child and I really felt enormous sympathy for her and sentimentality for her and wanted to help her. However, she is what you would call evil. She wouldn't see herself that way, but she is. I mean, every single person without exception drawing breath in the right mind would say, even just for one of those things, she's evil. So the thing is, that's right, she was evil, but she tried to help me, right? And if you take away all the litany of evil, there is this, you know, aspect of her trying to help me, you know, like Myra Hindley, deciding as Ian's killing a child to let it live and then to send it the odd Easter card. So, in a nutcake, right, I said in the last video that that I wasn't going to look at anything else that anyone sent me unless it was put right through by a girl called Cheryl, who is doing a triple salco with Pike and probably landing on top of the Eiffel Tower as we speak. And the thing is, right, she's doing wonderfully for me just now. She's got me on Amazon and all sorts. Here's one ring. She's been fielding everything, but in the last video, I gave the impression that I would still have one way of seeing the kind of things that to this day, almost 3 years since I've last seen Marie McCallum, she still sends me junk for evil reasons as well as real reasons, because if you softly, you can catch the monkey. And because I am very, very skilled at being non-reactionary, let's put it that way, with a paranoid schizophrenic psychopath who's megalomaniacal, and who, if they're not having sex regularly or some kind of drug to opiate them, start to hallucinate, and so they'll then start to believe anything, right? And so, but nonetheless, in all of that, throughout all that, if you are non-reactionary and seemingly very forgiving and understanding rather, and not disgusted by them deliberately trying to repulse you, right? It's called ambient abuse, and it leads to post-traumatic stress disorder. And her knowing that I have been clinically depressed my whole life, which is just, you've got a leaky door in your head and there's an abundance of depressants, right? She knew this. And my point is this, right? She targets people she sees as being vulnerable. She couldn't have been more wrong with me. And there's lots of psychopaths nodding their heads at that one. There's not much in them. You probably hear a marble rattling about inside a fucking steel trap. And so, right, she targeted me because she targets people who she thinks she can cause post-traumatic stress disorder to, who will then kill themselves, which people with PTSD tend to do. However, I say she'd got it wrong with me, so conversely she then fell for me. She was impressed by my non-reactionary and she aspects, and she revealed her true self, you know, and she regretted that and then tested me in her own ways. Well, I'm sitting watching her and just trying my best to be kind to her. And in a nutcake, right, she then does her best to hope she can cause me long-lasting psychological abuse, which was, as I've said before, like trying to lip down the Andes 10,000 miles away, you know, but it's actually a statue of Satan's cock. And I'm just looking at you from the top of a mountain range. So, the point being though, right, she did actually fall for me. And after she came down from her high, because they get these bipolar highs, right, they're megalomaniacally insane during those times. This is what they live for, because they spend a long time in the depths of despair and I'll never fucking be in there, but they are. And they have these dark, whistling, hollow nights of ruin and, you know, knowing that they are the phrase that resonated with her, out damned spot. Right? Right, from Macbeth, right? Where a phrase that resonated with her again when I told her I'd had a dream that I'd murdered somebody, and then I woke up and it took me a while to realise I hadn't murdered them. Back in the day when I still would have thought that was wrong. No, murder is different from execution. You know, you have to execute some people. Yeah, and murder obviously is wrong. It's an enormous difference. You know, like Ted Bundy was executed. Eileen Wuornos was executed. These were simply the correct things to do. You know, and in a nutcake, she gave me an enormous tell about that. And also a movie with Ben Kingsley where at the end, to ruin it for you, him and his wife put bags over their head and suffocate themselves because they're constantly being tormented by a relentless stupid bitch, you know, and when I watched it the first time, I haven't ever watched it since, she didn't strike me as being like a psychopath. I'll watch it again maybe one day. And this really resonated with her, and I read a tell. So she goes on until the person kills themselves, and this is what she had in store for me. So that's pretty evil. If you know that about yourself and you ever do that again, then you're a serial killer, and it's culpable homicide, attempted homicide. You're attempting, and so she gave me this impression, and I've got evidence that she was trying to do it again. So, as I said, I got to know her and genuinely cared about the real her and saw her total life story. I understood implicitly how that could come to be, but what I didn't know was she's a sex offender. Right? So this opened doors for me. You know, most people would, you know, fall through them to hell and kill themselves if they knew what I know. However, I'm a past master at all these things because my mother's a paedophile, and I trained with the best. And so if you've lived with clinical depression your whole life, and you've had 3 nervous breakdowns, you know, which I didn't know what they were, but I'll be covering them. Yes, I will. And Erol on PTSD in the next wee while. It's something that's very important, and I think it will be very, very revolutionary. And what I would say is this one thing I go back to. Although Marie McCallum, she was called at the time, and her sister Jackie Bradley, who are in it together, working as a kind of double act to fuck with people's minds, and even her children know about it. The point being, she did try to help me, and she was one of the most helpful people. Even amongst all that madness, because of my ability to be non-reactionary, she actually helped me more than, you know, well, I could count on 2 hands how many people have actually helped me my entire life, no matter how good I was to them. And she was one of them. Maybe even in the top 5, I think, maybe. But old Les is the he's flying about heaven right now. he did his best to help me, and to my discredit, man, if anybody doubts what I'm saying, I'm not trying to convince you of anything, right? Old Les, man, what he must have put up with me, man. Because I remember him saying to me, Erol, it's the fucking Jews! And I actually said to old Les, to my eternal shame, I said to him, Les, I'm not anti-Semitic. You know, and he said, he just persisted with me, you know, he persevered. And he said, Erol, it's the fucking Masons! And, you know, we would barter back and forwards, you know, and banter on this. And then he kept on going, and he sent me, I mean, top secret information. And years before it happened. And McCallum did the same, you know, she would send me cryptic pish, hoping that I would suffer by being drawn down to something quite sickening. You know, because at the end of it, from a man's psychology, if you're a man, it's quite important to know, if a female makes contact with you, unconsciously you'll need to take a deep breath and cool your jets, because if you are attracted to that female, if you expect a sexual reward at the end of that, if she's taking your time and you're building up in this manner, and all she's trying to do is draw your attention down to a microdot, then hop to the side and go, ha 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 and then just run away. You know, you'll be left, you'll be left gutted. So, and that's what she was trying to do. However, my ability to be non-reactionary, I was, you know, reading into this and trying to see the real her. Wait for it, right? This is how helpful she's been, right? I found the cure for paranoid schizophrenia. Wait for it, I've never ever conveyed this, right? When she abandoned the scene of the crime, as she put it, using a line from my novel, which she was obsessed with, which is now available on Amazon. You can find a link to it in there. So she put up a song that seemed celebratory, and this is amazing. When a paranoid schizophrenic or a psychopath, either way with temporal lobe dysfunction, or any type of psychopath, they can peel themselves away like a transfer from its backing, you know, and just, you know, a skedaddle, you know, right? And she went up the road and she put on one of my favourite songs on her channel, Keep the Customer Satisfied by, you know, Art Garfunkel and Paul Simon. And obviously that's very disrespectful. She was trying to pretend that I had had a relationship with her as a prostitute with a John. She is a prostitute, I'm no John. Although I have been with more than one prostitute by accident, you know, and they told me afterwards. Who else would get prostitutes to have sex with them for free on a regular basis? But the thing is, Jesus of Nazareth. But the point I'm conveying is, I don't do things by halves. She kept sending me these things, right? And I would have to go and look for them though. And she'd hacked my computer so she could see what I was doing, and she could move what she's imagining is like the bowl of dog food further and further away to that. So basically, I would go on her YouTube channel, which she'd been sending me stuff on, dedicating stuff to me on that for quite some time, for about, say, 3 or 4 months during her seduction campaign, her love bombing and stuff like that. During which she did fall for me, but she also hedges her bets due to her inability to trust, because she's untrustworthy. So I went onto her website, right, and she's adept at these kind of things, right, and on it was The Devil Went Down to Georgia, which is a bit of a giveaway. That tells the whole story. She's really got a rich sense of humour. If you don't mind someone trying to kill you and committing 43 crimes against you, a campaign that's continuing to this day, depending on how you look at it. Right? So, I'll overcome anything, because I'm a living Christ. It's just like, you know, this is what tends to happen to us, is nobody believes us till it's too late. It is the Jews. Jesus said that. The Zionist Jews, that is. And unfortunately, they've metamorphosed into Kurds. Or to put it more accurately, since they're in the arse crack between Russia and Turkey, and they've been shot out of Turkey, really, they're actually turds. So, and they were influenced by Hebrews who were shot out of Palestine and sent back and all the way there, although it was called something different at the time. But the point I'm conveying is Hebrew influenced Kurds are pretending to be Jews and killing you. I'll come to it, right? So in a nutcake, right, the cure for paranoid schizophrenia, right? She eventually put up a song which was celebratory again, and it seemed ridiculously celebratory. It was one of my least favourite songs of all time, and I told her that in person. Yellow River is in my blood and in my brain, or whatever, right? And it fucking stayed with me, right? So maybe once every 2 or 3 months, this would come back. Yellow River, you know, celebratory song, right? And she had like had an enormous up and enormous downs all the way through this campaign against me, and it was a remarkable thing. I should make a movie out of it, but the point is, it's dignifying her too much in that regard. And so, eventually, I discovered the cure for paranoid schizophrenia from that. She knows these things, you know. She told me, you know, that the was a paedophile while me reading one of her tells ages before anybody else knew. Right? She knows these things. She also knew Max Clifford was involved in paedophilia fucking years before any other motherfucker knew. I'm glad he's been pursued by that wee baldy English guy. And the thing is, right, she also dedicated a YouTube channel to me to let me know Colonel Gaddafi was a good guy who was about to be assassinated by Hitlery clitoris. And Hillbilly Clinton, right? Hitlery clitoris is a megalomaniacal psychopath, serial killer, who murders anyone who does anything for her because of her delusions of grandeur. She's breath-slighted, and if you ever hear her laugh, this is exactly how she laughs, with eyes that can't believe she's getting away with masturbating in plain view. She's a serial killer, mass murderer, and the scum of the fucking earth. Right? I accidentally saw her, and that's precisely how she sounded. And she, with one practised pish, she'd dispatched the guy who'd heckled her, who was walking off with a carrier bag full of beer, you know. And everybody applauded this subhuman sack of dirt, you know, who needs to be, right? Anyway, so she let me know that Hitler at Clitoris was going to basically sit and watch live television of a guy whom she'd been, you know, chatting away with recently, being stabbed to death and fucking stabbed up the arse on live television, murdered on live television, because he wouldn't accept her controlling him anymore and wanted to do good. I'll say that again, do good.